Good morning, I'm George Latimer, Westchester County Executive, and this is Thursday, and we have another one of our COVID conversations here in the 11 o'clock hour, where we're speaking with individuals that have critical roles that play within Westchester County government and Westchester County in general in our response to the COVID outbreak. Today my guest is Peter DeLucia, and you may remember that in the vicinity of about a month and a half ago, he taught me how to wash my hands, and he taught me how to wipe down different surfaces. I think Peter was the highest rating show that I've had.
Well, hopefully we can repeat that today, George.
We hope
I
so.
heard there's some competition out there now again.
Well, there is. You know, we know the governor's on every day, the president's on, the mayor of New York City is on, and with all of that, it's interesting. But Peter's officially Assistant Commissioner for the Bureau of Public Health Protection in the Westchester County Department of Health. So, but he is a public health professional, and it's interesting to me because there are departments of county government that people might see on a regular basis. Parks Department comes to mind. There are parks everywhere in the county. There are some that are never seen by the public unless something goes wrong, like the Department of Environmental Facilities, which is involved in the treatment of sewage. You only know sewage when it backs up, and it's a problem. The Health Department is interesting because it has an ongoing function, but at the same time, in an emergency like this, it comes front and center, and people are really interested. So under normal circumstances, I might say, let's have a conversation about what are some safe procedures, which is what we'll talk about, but it would be just sort of a very general conversation of something you do every day. Now what you do every day really matters, as we're all focusing on these things. So with that as sort of a premise, we appreciate you spending some more time with us.
Love to be here.
So we have some very new things to our culture. Social distancing is new to our culture. Wearing masks is new to our culture. In my years, whenever I had a cold, even if I had a bad cold, I never thought that I should wear a mask when I was out in public. And social distancing, you know, for those of us who are certainly in public office, and you've been in public office as well, you kind of be ebullient, you know, you greet people warmly and so forth. But now we have to social distance. So tell us, we have all these different settings. What's the basic public health philosophy behind social distancing, and when and where should we be most cognizant of it?
Well, remember, the whole thing, George, with COVID is that it's droplet borne. So our concern is sneezing, coughing, even sometimes general conversation. It's unsure of what that radius is. So we have a 6-foot distance, like what we have here today. So if you're not able to maintain that 6-foot distance, you need to wear the mask. And for masking to work, we have to do that universally as our whole society to do that. Because what the masking is doing is, when I'm wearing my mask, I'm protecting you from me. It's not necessarily really providing that much protection for me from you. Especially these surgical masks and like the mask I have here on my elbow, those are perfect masking for just out in society. When my staff is out doing nursing home inspections and working and involving in places where are very COVID, you know, we might have COVID patients, then you're wearing the N95. That's what all the emergency responders are wearing. Those are special fit-tested masks that are made, that we've been tested so they fit our face properly, so that we know now not only am I protecting you from me, I'm protected from you. So that's what's important with the masking. So we need to be cognizant where 6-foot distance is not maintained, we need to make sure we have that mask with us. So if we're going into a supermarket, we're going into a coffee store that now may be open, I think Starbucks is starting to allow some people in and things like that, you want to wear that mask because there's no way I'm going to be able to maintain that social distancing. You go into a deli, you want to, you know, grab and go, get something out of the you know, the Snapple bottle or whatever it may be, and you're going up to take your order, they're going to have a mask on, you need to have the mask on.
How about at the beach? People will say, well, I might go in and out of the water. Do I need to have a mask on in the water? Is it a waterborne disease where I might go into the water and someone might have that? And then, of course, when I'm on the sand, I guess the same issues apply. But how does it work in a beach setting?
It's a great question because here we go. We have the weekend coming up and we have some beach going that's possible, which is great. We're having these freedoms now, but we have to be respectful. So in the water, no mask. I mean, from what we were talking about and my colleagues and all, if you're wearing a mask, that's going to be more of a drowning hazard and things like that. So we don't want to be masked when we're swimming and into water. We want to be respectful. Keep that 6-foot distancing from non-family members. So if you're there with your kids or you know your household that you live with, you're fine. You're within that range. Try to be respectful. I know you're in the water, but let's be as respectful. We're on our blanket on the beach. We keep our distancing. We're as a family group, no masking. You know, maybe like, you know, I like to do, I keep my mask so I know about it, because it's not second nature yet
That's
for
exactly
a lot
right.
of people.
Exactly
So I like to keep it on my elbow, so I keep it somewhere where it's right there ready, so now I'm gonna take a walk, I'm gonna go to use the restroom, I'm gonna put my mask on, because now I'm gonna be walking by other people's blankets, once again, I don't believe I'm gonna be able to keep that 6 foot distancing easily, so it's gotta be respectful, we wear our mask. So I wouldn't expect to see lifeguards with masks, they're in the stand, they need to be able to respond, they're gonna watch what's going on in the water, you're gonna be swimming, you maintain your 6 foot on your blanket, best as you can, but when someone walks by your blanket, they should have their mask on. You know, now you're walking to the water, you're not gonna have your mask, so there's gonna be little nuances here, so once again, be courteous, be respectful.
We're taking a nature hike through the woods. I'm walking through the woods, do I sling my mask around my chin, and then when I see somebody coming, I put it back up? Is that sort of the normal?
That's
protocol?
sort of the norm. You know, you're going out, depending, we've got some wonderful parks in Westchester County, some wonderful local preserves, some trails you may go on, you don't see another human being. You know you've been there before, but you know what? You may see that person coming down the trail. So once again, you need to have that mask. If there's not enough room, my father used to say, road guard, you need to go to the side, going from the army. Have your mask so you can do that. Whether you have it slung around your neck, you can pop it right up. Yeah, keep it on your elbow like I like to do. You put it right on. Those work great. But it's that respect and that courtesy. If you're not going to maintain that 6 foot distancing, you need to bring that mask with you. I can't think of anywhere you really shouldn't have your mask with you and ready to put on.
And then be prepared to use it.
Yep.
Bicycling. We made the decision to keep Bicycle Sunday ongoing. You know, as we looked at the different things that we had within the county, we saw some things could allow for social distancing and some things couldn't. So we canceled, for example, the ethnic festivals that we have at Kensico. Those are great fun. You get thousands of people together, music and food, and there was no way we could social distance that. But we thought that Bicycle Sunday we could, because normally when I'm riding a bike, I can't be too close to you because I might lose my balance and we'll all go tumbling down. Should I be wearing a mask throughout the time that I'm bicycling if I'm doing something like a Bicycle Sunday?
I think for a Bicycle Sunday, you know, once again, when you look at the length of a bicycle and you're looking front to back, I think we're fine. Side to side, once again, if we get too close, I mean, this is not like what I would envision like a Tour de France, so you have this kind of race where these guys are right on there. Once again, you have your mask with you, because you are going to potentially, you know, not everybody's gonna be able to ride the whole Bronx River Parkway. You're gonna maybe pull over for a second, sit, you need to be able to take a drink. So if that's a little congregation there, which we don't wanna have any big group congregations, but you wanna be able to have that mask with you. So whether you keep it here, keep it around your neck, have it in a little pack on your bike, I think there's a necessity to that.
Let's also talk about when we go out into the wooded areas, and not just the county wooded areas, but there are other things we have to worry about as we get into the summer season. Ticks become a concern. You know, how we're dealing with mosquitoes, perhaps a mosquito infestation. There's always the potential of wild animals. Do any of them carry rabies? What's sort of the good rule of thumb things that we should do if we know we're going to be in a wooded environment where we might come into contact with those things?
That's a great question, and here we are, we're coming on Memorial Day weekend, weather's getting nicer, we're out and about, and we want to still be able to go out, socially distance, and enjoy our parks. So first and foremost, we realize that there are ticks. Ticks are there. Now, we don't want to scare people, and people get nervous, oh, they're going to jump. Ticks don't jump, ticks don't fly. What they do is they quest. They'll sit here on a leaf or on a tall blade of grass and wait for something to brush by, and that's when they hook on. So first advice is when you go out on the trails, stick to the trails. You start going through big fields and bushwhacking and stuff like that, that's an opportunity where you're going to get these ticks on you. Second, wear a repellent. Now, we're concerned about mosquitoes also, biting insects. Mosquitoes are more prevalent around dusk and around dawn, but they're out there. So if you're going to do something, you want to make sure you use a repellent that's good for ticks and for mosquitoes, and that's a repellent that contains DEET. And we look at the label, about 30% DEET is the number we're looking for. Somebody is deep woods, 70%, you don't need that. 30% is fine, it's a good number. Apply it with the label. Remember the label, always the label is the law. Look on that canister of what you're using and follow those directions. It's great to be able to put it on your clothing. Some can be put on your skin. I always say with the little ones, be very careful, you want to apply it. You don't want it on their hands because they're putting their hands in their mouth and things like that, so you want to be careful. And then, you know, if you are going to be taking a long hike where you may find yourself in some areas that you might be brushing against things, you know, you want to wear light clothing so you can see the ticks on you, because remember, they're tiny, like a poppy seed. And, you know, you might get in trouble. I used to make the joke with the fashion police, but if you take your socks and you actually put the, and tuck them over your pant leg.
Right.
So you make that tick-proof barrier. That's gonna really help you, because the ticks like to come in and find where it's warm, and they'll congregate maybe right your belt line, check under your watch, and things like that. And when you come in after you're enjoying the parks and you had a day, it's very good to do a tick check. If you have an opportunity to put your clothing right in the laundry, so you can run it through the cycle and then dry it on high heat. That's gonna kill any ticks. You don't wanna take your clothing off in your bedroom and put it on your bed or things like that, because the ticks, if there's any on your clothing, then they'll wind up in your bed and you can wind up getting them that way. So those are some things when you're going out, stick to the trails, make sure you're dressed appropriately, use repellents. And then there are some sunscreens now, and you always wanna wear a sunscreen if you're gonna be out and having exposed skin when you're out there in the sun. There are some that contain repellents. So just be careful, if you use something like that, don't add to it. Don't use a actual mosquito or tick repellent along with a sunscreen with a repellent. You don't want to double up with that.
Right.
So if you have the repellent that contains that, that's fine. But remember, the repellents that contain DEET are generally the best for repelling the ticks. That's very important.
That's fascinating, and in addition to that, what's our basic proper behavior for taking a walk in the woods and we see a wild animal and somehow they're acting a little bit different than we would expect them to?
It's very important. This time of year, you're gonna run across wild animals. And remember, they're wild animals. You wanna, they're beautiful to view them for a distance, and if you see one that's acting suspicious, lethargic, sick, or it looks like a cute baby animal that's alone, don't go near it.
Leave it alone.
Leave it alone. If it's something that looks like it's posing a danger, make a quick call to your local police department, let them know what's going on, they'll go out and check on it and dispatch the animal. If, God forbid, you do have contact with that animal, make sure you contact the health department. If it's an injury, first go right to an emergency room to take care of that, but make sure we know about it, because all these animals are suspect rabid until proven otherwise.
Yeah.
So this time of year, you're opening up your barbecue and your umbrellas. Every year, we get a bat exposure from someone unwinding their umbrella from their table umbrella for the first time and a bat flying out.
Right.
So be aware of these things, because we need, if you have that bat, if you find a bat in your home, you need to contact us. Don't shoo that bat out the window, because we need that bat for testing if there's been a potential exposure.
Right.
Because once again, they're all presumed rabid. Most of the time when we have to test them, they test negative. You don't have to go for rabies shots. Everything is fine. And the same with your pets this time of year. Make sure your pets are up to date on their rabies vaccinations, because you might be out taking a walk with your dog, your cat may be outside, and if they have a confrontation with a wild animal and we're not able to test it, then there's issues there. So we want to make sure they're up to date.
I had an incident with a bat about a little over 20 years ago. I had to go through what was then the protocol for rabies testing, and it made me very sensitive to avoid those situations in the future. It was not a lot of fun. Everything was fine ultimately, but you don't know, and of course, if you contract rabies, it's beyond serious.
Oh, it's presumed deadly. That's it. So you want to be able, as long as you take advantage, you get those shots up front, you're fine. Once those symptoms happen, then it's too late. And we've got some great information on our website about ticks and how to remove a tick and use the proper tweezer. We've got videos on there. We've got video even on how to capture a bat. But if you're scared to do anything like that, you can give us a call. We've got a list of great wildlife trappers and people that can help you out.
So you're in the backyard. You've opened up the umbrella and no bat, and no ticks in your yard. You're going to fire up the grill. We're going to grill some burgers or steaks or whatever. What are some of the things about barbecue safety that we have to keep in mind?
Well, barbecue safety this time of year is usually, I'm only thinking about that. That's right in my wheelhouse. And we, first and foremost, clean hands. So we've got COVID going on. We're constantly talking about washing our hands. Washing our hands is so important with food prep, with or without COVID. We want to have clean hands. So you want to have those clean hands ready. And when we're barbecuing, we want to make sure that we cook things to the right temperature and that we keep things at the right temperature when we bring them out, because it's a hot, sunny day. So a thermometer is good, a 0 to 220 thermometer. You can order those online. Amazon has them. It's just a simple little probe thermometer. Shouldn't cost you more than $10. They're great to be able to tell your temperatures. What I like to let people know is if you're bringing out raw meat, if you're doing this out at a park or even at your house, you want to make sure you keep it in a cooler until you're ready to use it, so it's nice and cold. Then once you cook it, remember you have that out. On normal circumstance, if it's not blazingly hot outside, 2 hours is the rule of thumb that food can be out after it's cooked. On a 90-degree day, really hot day, we really say 1 hour,
Right.
that food is either returned to the refrigerator or the cooler or disposed of. Cooking temperatures, hopefully you can record this, people at home. You've got basically for pork, sausages, things like that, 150 degrees. Hamburgers, ground meat products, 160 degrees. Poultry items, 165. And your normal meat, steaks, things like that, 140 degrees. Those are the temperatures that we look for. And basically, you have your nice clean barbecue that you have all set up there. You take those temperatures and you get a good feel for it. You don't have to test every piece of meat, and you test them as you get them going out, and you have an idea of what's going on. I caution people to be very careful with frozen hamburgers, because a lot of times when you cook those frozen hamburgers, they may look done on the inside, but because they're frozen solid, they warm up on the inside, and E. coli, a pathogen that we find in ground beef, can survive in freezer temperatures. So you really want to make sure those frozen hamburgers are cooked all the way through. And I know people like to use them. They're great when you go out barbecuing. It's something that's like a block of ice in your cooler,
Right.
but make sure you cook those to the right temperature.
Well, and I guess the final point we'll mention, and I gather people are going to watch this video, replay it, and go slowly and write everything down if they missed it on the first go-around. This is very, very detailed and very helpful information. So in that backyard barbecue, maybe you have a pool in the backyard. I assume one of the things that is essential while you're cooking and you're keeping an eye, you want to keep your eye on your kids near the water, pets too, I suppose, because that element of water safety, even in a small pool that's not all that deep, a child can drown.
A child can drown in an inch or less of water. It's amazing, and how quickly, as we all know, those of us that do have kids, how quickly they can get out of your sight, or quickly you get involved in a conversation, you're barbecuing, you have people over the house, and in an instant tragedy can happen. So it is so imperative, and I would think even more with the restrictions we have now, that people are going to be using their backyard pools or trying to set up a backyard pool, buying these pools online and things like that. We actually spoke, we had a great resident that spoke to the Westchester County Board of Health, I believe it was a year or two ago, about setting up a buddy system at home, which is so important. Have someone who is responsible for that child. So it can't be, I'm barbecuing and I'm also responsible to keep an eye on what's going on.
Right.
That's not enough. You need to have somebody at poolside there knowing where the children are. It's so important. And what we talk about is, swimming and learning to swim is such a skill that we really feel is, if you really want to drown-proof your child, you need to have them be able to swim and learn how to swim. So it's so important to get those swimming lessons, get them swimming at a young age, and don't depend on flotation devices. Just because you have a flotation, the little wings or things like that, that's a false sense of security. If you have a child that can't swim, along with the supervision, these things can be used, and especially if you're going to use something, an actual Coast Guard approved personal flotation device that's made for that weight class of the individual, and for the younger ones, even a strap that is between the legs so that doesn't come off, and a pillow behind the head and things like that. But that is not any kind of substitution for active surveillance at the poolside. And we spoke about beaches and lifeguards going to be at the beaches. Those lifeguards that are at our beaches and at our pools, when the pools hopefully reopen, are not there to supervise your children. They're there to watch the water and prevent a drowning and do a rescue if need be. Not yell at you about social distancing or wearing masks, or watch your kids when you're doing something else and fooling around on your iPod or your music device and not watching your child. It's very important for that personal responsibility for watching your children at the waterfront.
We've been talking with Peter DeLucia, who's the Assistant Commissioner for the Westchester County Department of Health, and he packed in 20 minutes advice that's taken a lifetime to accumulate, but wisdom that we need to practice now as the summer is upon us, every single day in our backyard, when we go out to a beach, if pools open or when they open, at poolside, when we're taking a walk through the forest, all the things that make life in Westchester wonderful has an element and that we have to be able to anticipate and address. Pete, thanks again, terrific program. We'll have you back again, and we'll talk some more about
George,
this.
thanks for having me anytime. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for watching. We are not going to have our traditional update at 2 o'clock today on the coronavirus. We will be back at 2:30 as part of a joint event with the Suffolk County Executive Steve Malone, the Nassau County Executive Laura Kern, and myself. We're going to talk a little bit about how 3 suburban counties are trying to deal with some of the changes to the coronavirus, and we'll touch on beaches. Playland Beach and Croton Point Park beaches will open this weekend, Memorial Day weekend, Friday through Monday. We're going to watch how we can handle maintaining a lower capacity than we would normally have, and also if we have the social distancing and the mask wearing that we need to have. We know it's tough to get 100% of things, but we need to have substantial compliance, and if we can do the right things, and that's one part what we have to do, and one part what you have to do, if we can do the right things, then we'll keep the beaches open on the weekends for the next month or so before we get to the heart of the summertime. People do need a release, but we still have to be concerned in everything Pete just said about our public safety. So we'll put all that into the mix today at 2:30. Stay safe. We'll see you a little later today.